Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce the members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Karen Meyer, attorney to the board. To her left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the planning department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented tonight. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. They're listed on the screen for you also. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. After your case is read into the record by Mr. Donadio, the applicant will come to the podium to present their case. Once the case has been presented, if anyone on the board has any questions, they will be asked. Then, any interested party who would like to speak on the case will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or concerns, after which the case will be closed. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. You can contact the planning department after 12 p.m. tomorrow for the status of your case. There are no adjournments tonight, so, Mr. Donadio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 2-17719, Thomas Kennedy, 79 Hemlock Drive, Kings Park. Location of the property, the east side of Hemlock Drive, 100 feet north of Tulip Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum height of a proposed 576 square foot detached garage from 15 feet to 19 feet. Permit environmentally sensitive land, depth to groundwater less than 10 feet to be altered, to increase the maximum gross floor area of a lot from 25% to 100% within the LWRP due to the high groundwater.
Good evening.
Hi, Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York, attorney for the applicant. Good to be back. Thank you for opening the meeting. Very important. I started on this application in April of 2017. No fault of this board, but today we got LERP, we have CEQA. My guy just wants to build this nice little garage and a beautiful lot in San Remo. It won't have an effect on the character of the neighborhood. It's not substantial. We need a variance. It will have no environmental impact, and it's not self-created. We're here. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to come from a nursing home to finish this up, so if you guys could approve this tonight, I'd appreciate it.
We'll try to help you. This case was reopened from August of 2020, right?
No, I started on the application in April of 2017.
But then you requested to have it reopened.
Right, because there was
Right.
some configurations.
Right, it was just in the advertisement.
Yes,
From 25%, now it reads 100%. So
yes,
now you're okay.
right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. King.
Okay. The next case on the agenda, case number 18535, John Mamana, 50 King Arthur's Court North, St. James. The location of the property, the northwest corner of King Arthur's Court North and Gordon Gate. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 75 feet to 55 feet for an existing 302 square foot attached gazebo on top of an existing deck.
Good evening, John.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joseph Neitzel, JMN Architecture, 406 North Country Road.
Oh, you submitted all the paperwork?
Yep.
Okay, fine.
Good evening.
Just excuse me 1 second. Could you just state your name again, spell it so we get correct for the record,
Sure.
and your address, please?
Joseph Neitzel, Neitzel, JMN Architecture, 406 North Country Road, St. James.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My client, John Mamana, is seeking relief from the board for a rear yard setback from 75 feet to 55 feet for an existing built prior single-story 302 square foot gazebo. The property is a corner lot and does have a short existing rear backyard. Due to the unique nature of the property and the gazebo, if the gazebo were detached from our structure and not attached to the deck, it'd be considered a rear yard, an accessory structure, which would be permitted in the rear yard and is close to 8 feet as to the property line. So, again, we're requesting relief for the reduced setback due to the nature of the gazebo being attached to the home as well as the deck. We don't feel that the request for release is substantial. We, don't feel that it'll have an adverse impact on the adjoining properties. It is a self-created hardship because it was built prior without a permit, but, again, we don't feel it's substantial, so.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
Planning? No, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Have a good night.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18536, Newest Corp., 2050 Jericho Turnpike, Comac. The location of the property, the south side of Jericho Turnpike, 1,095 feet west of Mayfair Terrace. The property is zoned CB. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 19 feet for a proposed 70-square-foot electric wall sign.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm so sorry if I'm nervous. My name is Otisas Lantas. I am the owner of Newest Corp. We just wanted to get the sign from 15 to 19.
Okay, fine. Is this gentleman?
He's my partner.
You want me to sit?
One second. We didn't get your name. Could you spell your name?
Hatis Aslantas,
Could you spell it, please?
Aslantas.
Okay, thank you. Do you want,
Affidavits. The affidavits.
she's the owner.
The affidavits.
Yes, he's
Posting.
got the paperwork.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You have the affidavit of postings and
Yes.
everything?
You want to bring it over there?
Yeah.
They need.
Just the affidavit of posting and her signature. She said, go ahead, we can go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
The rest is okay.
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 Is your partner going to speak at all?
Well, he can speak. He speaks.
If he's going to speak, he has to introduce himself,
Yes.
and so we get it on the record.
Yes, his name is.
My name is Erdinç Kayı, Erdanç Kayı.
Okay. And you're here, a wall sign from 15 feet to 19 feet.
19.
Correct.
On the application, it says an electric wall sign. Do you mean it's going to be illuminated from the back? It's not going to be one of these things that, you know, scrolls across with information?
I think we give the all information to the town. You guys have it, and
Yeah. But,
They have it.
all plain.
Green, Mr. Chairman.
oh, okay. All right. So it's just going to be lit from behind?
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application? Planning?
No, thank you.
Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18537, John Argyros, 224 Larch Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Larch Lane, 779 feet west of Brookside Drive. The property is owned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard from 50 feet to 36 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 8 feet, to reduce the total side yards from 34 feet to 32 feet for a proposed 2,324 square foot, two-story single-family dwelling, and existing 484 square foot detached garage with 88 square foot attached shed.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Ardros. I currently reside at 24 Taylor Avenue in Center Ridge, but I'm the owner of 224 Larch Lane in Smithtown, which is the property in question. So the variance would not produce an impact on the adjacent properties for the neighborhood because the existing structure is built pre-code as well as most of the other houses on the block. So although the proposed structure will not conform to current minimum front yard setbacks, it will still be roughly the same distance away from the property line as most of the other houses on the block. The request is not substantial. The size of the footprint for the house is going to be roughly 32 by 37 feet, which is similar to most houses in the area. The benefit can't be achieved by an alternative because, like I said, the house was built pre-code, and moving it would cause create double the amount of excavation, and the variance won't cause an adverse effect on the environment. And the difficulty was not created by myself or the previous owner because, as mentioned earlier, the house was built pre-code.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No. Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18538, Hatis Eslantis, 4 Stacy Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property is the west side of Stacy Lane, 98 feet north of Dana Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 36 feet for an existing 176 square foot front porch.
Good evening.
My name is Satis Aslantes. I own 4 Stacy Lane in Smithtown, New York. I would like to have my architect represent me tonight.
Fine,
So, thank you.
thank you. Carmine, could you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, offices at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I've submitted the certified mail receipts and affidavits of mailing and posting. I represent Mrs. Eslantis, in her request for a front yard setback variance for her front porch. She was doing work on the property. She was doing some cosmetic changes to the facade, which included the expansion of the existing front porch, and they were putting a roof over it. Unfortunately, she was unaware that when she was doing that, it required a permit and that it was encroaching on the front yard setback. The existing porch that was there previously did not have a roof, and the reason that they're putting the roof on it is because they just want protection from the elements when they come to the front door. In regards to the area variance considerations, we do not feel that there is an undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood. The work actually is an improvement over what was existing, so it's a much nicer looking condition now. The benefit could not be sought by any other method. The setback variance is needed in order to provide the protection from the elements, as I said before, with the roof over on the front porch. We don't feel that the request is substantial. It's only a 10% reduction in the setback requirement from 40 feet to 36. We don't feel that it has an adverse effect on the environment. There's no additional sanitary flow or electrical use associated with this. And whether it was self-created, yes, unfortunately, my client started the work without realizing that she needed a permit and variances, so that was self-created. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. The next case on the agenda, case number 18539, Arturo Penalvar, 281 Lilac Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property, the south side of Lilac Lane, 1,570 feet west of Brookside Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 12 feet, to reduce total side yards from 34 feet to 16 feet, to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth of groundwater is equal to or less than 10 feet, for a proposed 20-foot by 40-foot in-ground swimming pool.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. My name is Arturo, owner of 281 Lilac Lane in Smithtown. And should I just go? As he mentioned, we're proposing to install a pool, 20 by 40 pool, reducing the side yard setback from 16 feet to 12 feet and reducing the total side yard from 34 feet to 16 feet. There's also a...
Arturo, can I interrupt you for
Sure.
1 second? The postings, the mailings, could you submit them, please? Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
No problem, thank you. So to continue, reducing the total side yard from 34 feet to 16 feet, and also the environmental sensitive land due to a high groundwater table that's less than 10 feet for the installation of a proposed 20 by 40 in-ground swimming pool. Swimming pools are common and customary to the area. We don't feel that have an adverse effect to the neighborhood. I'd also like to point out that I was once here back in 2016 when I built the property, and we had an original variance back then, which caused this setback to exist initially.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning? No? Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18540, Michael Alfano, 32 Morewood Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property, the west side of Morewood Drive, 536 feet north of Dana Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the total side yards from 28 feet to 24 feet for a proposed 357 square foot first floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Alfano, A-L-F-A-N-O. I live at 32 Morewood Drive, Smithtown. I would like to have my expediter, Ralph Alsassa, speak on my behalf.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Ralph. Can you state your name, spell your last name?
Sure.
And give
Ralph
the address for the record, please?
Elsasser, E-L-S-A-S-S-E-R, Elsasser Expediting Services, 1134B Middle Country Road in Selden.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Chairman, we're before the board tonight for a proposed addition. The house currently has a carport. We would be looking to put a demolition in for the carport. The proposed addition will have no adverse effect in the neighborhood. I just submitted some photos of other properties in there. They were either carported it or added extra garages, and now they were also additions, which I just submitted to the planner. We feel that the total 357 square foot is not substantial, and we're looking for basically a reduction from the 28 feet to the 24 feet as far as the total side yard. This is a proposed structure, so we don't have any difficulty created. And any other questions from the board?
I will ask. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Have a good evening.
You do the same. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18541, James and Dina Fennell, 8 Country Lane, Kings Park. The location of the property, the southwest corner of Country Lane Drive and Cedar Street North. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Country Lane Drive from 40 feet to 37 feet for a proposed 160 square foot roof over porch.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dina Fennell. I live at 8 Country Lane Drive in Kings Park with my husband, James Fennell, and Mr. Kevin Ream will be presenting us tonight.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Kevin, could you introduce yourself?
Yep.
Spell your last name, please, and give your address for the record.
Kevin Ream, R-E-I-M as in Mary, 12 Church Street in Kings Park, New York, 11754.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm here tonight to request a front yard setback from 40 feet where 37 is proposed for a 160 square foot porch. Most of the neighborhood around has front porches now, so it wouldn't change the characteristic of the neighborhood at all. The alternative can't be achieved any other way due to the house being already set back at the maximum 40-foot setback, so any work we proposed up front would require a variance. The area variance isn't substantial. We're only asking to encroach 3 feet, which we don't feel is that substantial. And again, wouldn't have any adverse effect on the environment. We're not doing any excavating, any digging, or anything like that. And I'm here just seeking approval, so it's not a self-hardship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18542, Sean Ostrovsky, 45 South Avenue, Smithtown. The location, excuse me, the location of the property, the east side of South Avenue, 1,100 feet south of Halleck Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth of groundwater is equal to or less than 10 feet for a proposed 48-square-foot front portico and 995-square-foot second-floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? Sean Ostrowski, 45 South Avenue, Smithtown. I'd like Gennaro to represent me.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Could you, again, state your name, spell your last name, and give your address, please, so we get it correct for the record?
Gennaro Cozzolino, Cozzolino, 2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're requesting relief from the board to construct a new second-floor addition with a front portico. The proposed additions require variance for altering environmentally sensitive lands where depth to water is equal or less than 10 feet. The project is not a substantial variance request. The front dormer is to be built over the footprint of the house. Proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, will not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Nothing.
Planning? No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, good evening.
You too.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18543, Hoppog Route 111 Associates LLC, Glenn Levens, 520 Route 111 Hoppog. The location of the property, the west side of Route 111, 201 feet south of Route 347. The property is zoned CB. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit a proposed propane filling station, a variance of a special exception standard to increase the maximum storage capacity on the site from 200 gallons to 1,000 gallons, a variance to reduce the minimum required parking from 372 to 170 spaces, to reduce the required truck loading spaces from 1 to 0, to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth of groundwater is equal to or less than 10 feet.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Levens, and
You're the-
Max
are you-
Form
are
is
you
going to
the-
represent me from
Are you-
Nancy.
Are you the applicant, sir?
Correct.
Okay, you're the owner of?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Can you just state your name for the record?
Glenn Levens.
Okay, fine. And you want these gentlemen to represent you?
Correct.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, just introduce yourself, spell your last name, give the address for the record, please.
I'm Maximilian Foreman, Foreman, and we are the architects for this project. The address is 222 Middle Country Road, Suite 314, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Thank you.
Okay, so we want to increase the size of the tank from 200 gallons to 1,000 gallons, which is 500% increase, but we believe that it is fine and actually beneficial for the neighborhood as people can easily commute there to get their propane refilled. We meet the minimum required setbacks as we're 97 feet from the road, 347, and then we are 10 feet setback from the TD Bank neighboring lot line. As for reducing the parking, there's been a previous variance there that reduced the parking from 372 stalls to 172. So we would only further reduce that by 2. And then the minimum truck loading spaces we propose to reduce from 1 to 0, as we plan to add an additional garage door on the north side of the building to provide access for the product.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Are you going to speak at all, sir? No, I don't think I need to. Okay, fine, thank you.
Just gonna stand there.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Just a couple of comments for you, Mr. Chairman. Just to give the board a full description of what the application is about. The applicant is proposing to place a Brinkman's hardware store within the shopping center. The hardware store will have a garden center, and as part of the garden center, they would like to have a propane filling station as a component to that. We've reviewed the application. We've looked at it favorably. We do recommend approval. However, we did recommend a condition that the proposed filling station actually be moved further away from Route 111 and be more in line with the building, just for safety purposes.
Are you in agreement with that? Would that work for you?
If the board wishes to do that, we're fine.
I'm sorry, if you need to, if you're going to speak, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Pong Moy, Mancini Architecture, 222 Middle Country Road, Suite 314, Smithtown, New York, 01787. Yeah, I already spoke to the owner. If you guys want to pull that off of 347, we're fine with it. If you guys give us the dimension of how far back you want to set it, we'll address it on the site plan.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night now.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18544, Alan Niravath, 21 Fernwood Drive, Comac. The location of the property, the east side of Fernwood Drive, 402 feet north of Gannett Drive. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 36 feet for a 267-square-foot roof over porch.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Matt. I'd like to bring out and thank the board for granting previous variances to this property, I guess about 6-7 months ago. Now we would like to enhance the front of the house by putting on a small covered porch. We don't think the variance would have an impact on the character of the neighborhood. In fact, it'll make it nicer. The request is certainly not substantial. It's 4 feet, and the benefit can't be achieved by an alternative. Either you allow us to put up the porch or you don't. The variance would not have any environmental impacts. It's a porch, a covered porch, that's about it. It has no bathrooms or even any type of heating. It's an open porch, and the difficulty was not self-created. As we haven't built it yet, we're asking for your permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Mr. DeMarco.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18545, 521 Property Management LLC, 521 West Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of West Jericho Turnpike, 140 feet west of Meadow Road. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to modify a certificate of existing use from retail to medical office.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Joseph Lucania. I'm the owner of 521 West Jericho Turnpike, and I would like Carmine Grasso to speak on my behalf.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening again. My name's Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, 14 Carl Avenue, Smithtown, New York. I submitted the certified mailings and the affidavits of posting and mailing as well. I represent Mr. Lucania in his application to modify the CEU that was granted on the property for a medical office use now on the first floor of the existing building. The existing CEU on the property was granted in 1990 under BZA case 10167, and that was to maintain an existing retail store in an R21 residential district. The property was zoned NB until 1987, and then the town changed it to R21 per the recommendations of the LWRP. The property to the east is City MD. It's an urgent care facility, and the property to the west is an office use for a property management company. Excuse me. The medical office use, we feel, is in character with the adjacent uses. The retail use that is permitted there right now under the CEU really is not feasible in the location. I know my client has been trying to, he fixed up the building a few years back and has been trying to rent the space, and he cannot find any retail uses in there. The medical office use seems to be the best situation for that piece of property. So the medical office use, the parking requirements are far less intense than the existing retail use. There would be less parking spaces required for this use than the retail that's there now. There would be additional sanitary flow for the required proposed use of medical office, but due to the small size of the building, it's only just over 1,500 square feet of floor space in the medical use. There's no need to upgrade the existing sanitary system. It meets all of the flow requirements for the health department, so it's really not a big deal at all. The existing approved apartment on the second floor is going to remain. We've been working with the planning department to come up with a site plan that's acceptable to them and the client, and I think the site plan that you see in front of you is nicely done. It's actually reducing the amount of gravel and paving area and creating more landscaping. We are making an application to the LWRP. I plan on doing that tomorrow. We're going to be submitting applications to the DEC and the Health Department as well for the proposed work. And we're going to conform with any of the requirements of these agencies. There's no work proposed to the exterior of the existing building. The only work that would eventually be done, should this use be permitted, would be an interior alteration eventually once a tenant has been identified. Other than that, everything would remain the way it is on the site except for the parking changes that we're proposing. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. The next case on the agenda, case number 18546, Daniel Gobitz, 16 Three Pond Road, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Three Pond Road, 563 feet east of Thatch Pond Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 25 feet, which is existing at 29 feet, for a proposed 1,245 square foot second floor addition and 84 square foot porch, adding to a non-conforming structure.
Good evening.
Good evening. Daniel Gobetz, 16 Three Pond Road in Smithtown. I'd like Mr. Castellano to represent me tonight.
Fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Louis Castellano, 2701 Middle Country Road, Lake Grove, New York. Thank you and welcome back. We appreciate you coming back out. I'm trying to stretch a little bit because Mike's client's not here yet.
Okay.
We
I think
hear-
she just came in.
Oh, okay, he's good. Mike, you're good. We hear about 16 Three Pond Road. There was a variance previously granted for the front yard, but of course, we're going for the second story. We have to go back for the front yard variance again. The new two-story house will blend in with the character of the neighborhood. There's other similar homes in the neighborhood, a lot of two-story homes. We don't feel it has any environmental impact. It's not self-created because we haven't done it yet, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So I want to put a second story on. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18547, Patrick White, 37 Howell Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property, the east side of Howell Drive, 340 feet south of East Hill Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 49 feet for an existing 300 square foot sunroom, to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 4 feet for an existing 139 square foot wooden shed, to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 1 foot, to reduce the total side yards from 28 feet to 14 feet for an existing 487 square foot basketball court, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the south side yard from 25% to 51%.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you just state, you're the applicant, correct?
Yes.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Lisa Petruno White?
Okay. And you would like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, I would.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Michael Morbillo, architect for the applicant. My office is located at 273 Lake Avenue, St. James, New York. The application before you this evening has a few items on it. I'm just going to run through the list. The first is for a very minor request, which is for an existing sunroom. It's a 1 foot encroachment. It's a de minimis request, but we wanted to make sure that it was clear on the application. The second request that we have is for a shed that's in the side yard. So, the property, doesn't have a very large backyard, The shed has been there for, some time now, several years. And being a quarter-acre property, they do have some limitations on placement in the property. And so they're asking for that to remain. It is a built prior structure. It is behind a PVC fence, so it is well hidden out of view from the street. The next request that we have is for some lot coverage, basically for paving. We have, on one side, there is a sport court, and the sport court, as a basketball court, it's recognized as a structure in its entirety. So, from one sense, they're asking that we reduce the side yard from 12 feet to 1 foot for the sport court, and that's to the edge of the actual paving or the surface for the court. The only structure that projects is the basketball pole itself and the backboard. So it's somewhat deceptive a request, because going from 12 to 1 feet, it sounds, all right, this is a structure and we want to be 1 feet off of the line, but in reality, it's just the surfacing of the court that's a foot off of the line. It had been actually a little bit closer. That there's a picture that's on there now that's depicting it. The homeowners actually have cut back the surface so that it's at least a foot away from the property line, because I know that's an absolute minimum for any sort of paving. So that has been reduced. That's where the 1 foot request is coming from. But in reality, the basketball pole and backboard, is approximately 7 to 8 feet from the property line. It's the only vertical member as far as that structure is considered. The other requests are for, again, related to the basketball court is the paving. We have a request from 25% to 51% in the side yard. That is occurring on the south side of the property. There's some pictures there. There's a paver patio which is next to the sunroom, which is to the south of the sunroom, and also a concrete patio, which is where they store their garbage pails and other things on the side of the house. So that's what's pushing us over the allowable amount. And if the board has any questions at this time, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
On the basketball court,
Yes.
there's no lights on that.
No, there's no lights on it.
No
no.
lights.
Nope.
Does anyone on board have any questions on the application? Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard in this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18548, Robert F. Cantone, 2 Arbor Lane, Hoppog. The location of the property, the northwest corner of Arbor Lane and Saturn Boulevard. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 41 feet for a proposed 349 square foot second floor addition, adding to a lawful nonconforming structure, and to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 5 feet for an existing 44 square foot vinyl shed and 56 square foot metal shed.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Richard M. Gordon. I'm an attorney. I'm representing the applicants. My address is 780 New York Avenue, Huntington, New York. The structure is a colonial house with an attached garage. It's a 2-level colonial. The garage is 1 story tall. The applicants wish to build above the garage and the den on the 2nd level to create a master bedroom and a master bath. They're not going to change the footprint of the house at all. So we learned that this house was built in 1963, and there was a CO that was issued at the time of its construction. Only now do we realize that though it's supposed to have a 50-foot setback for the rear yard, it was born inadequate. It only has a 41-foot setback. Nothing has been changed since the time the house was constructed. So we seek the variance for that setback. As to the side yard, there are 2 storage sheds. Both of them are more than the minimum 2 feet required setback. And the application here actually seeks permission to have those 2 storage sheds in the side yard, which is otherwise not permitted. For that side yard, it is shielded by a fence in the front area, in the side yard, on the lot line, and also in the back area, so that the sheds are not visible by anyone, including the immediate next-door neighbor. The proposed modification to the house is certainly not undesirable, nor will it change the character of the neighborhood. It'll be well in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to any of the nearby properties. There is no feasible alternative for the applicant to be able to expand the home without changing the footprint, and that still won't eradicate the problem with the setback. The requested variance is not substantial, and it will not have any adverse impact on any environmental conditions in the neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
Certainly.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No questions.
Planning?
Thank you.
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Tramonte. Huh? I understand that, but do you want to get him on the record? His statement? And that concludes our meeting for tonight.